Hello everybody and welcome back to the Blues Knot channel. Today I am back with the MLS Matchweek number 2 review show, and wow, what a match week this was. This is probably one of the best match week in the MLS that I've seen in a very, very long time. I mean, first of all, there was a lot of goals in this game. There was actually 5 games in these 9 games that had either a team score more than 4 goals or the total amount of goals by the end of this game is more than 5 goals. I mean, that is how crazy it was. And there was also a lot of storyline and a lot of big statement by a couple of the teams on the board. And there was also some upsets this week. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually dive in. And just to let you guys know that I potentially will take a while to explain all this and kind of review all these 9 games, because there were just so many headlines and there's just like so many kind of story from this week. So, you know, if this video is incredibly long, I do apologize for that. And also, if I do miss something from some of these games, which I think I might, because there's just so much to talk about. Sometimes I forget some things that I want to talk about from each of these games. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to explain as much as I could. But either way, let's actually dive into this week's action. And we start off with this game between Columbus and Montreal, with Columbus getting a 3-2 win. I was unfortunately didn't watch this game. I wasn't even awake when this game happened. I woke up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, and this game kicked off at 10 o'clock. And I really regret missing this one, because this was one of the many games that was a complete banger of a game, and it was just so crazy. But goals in this game for Columbus: Higuain and Zardes with a brace. I mean, Zardes just loves to prove me wrong, the fact that he can't do it anymore. He loves to prove those doubters like me that he can, of course, continue to do it. And he has now scored 2 goals, and now he has scored 3 this season, including now the winner in this game. Well, he scored the winner, but that was a penalty, of course, and he didn't really won that penalty. But still, he scored the winner of this game, and he just continued to prove doubter like me wrong. And I'm going to say that I'm not going to just completely admit myself that I was wrong about Zardes and the fact that he just doesn't have it anymore. Mainly because we're only 2 games into the season. And yes, he has scored 3 goals with his new club now, and he looked like he might be a very good replacement, and even a better replacement for Ola Kamara. But it's only 2 games, guys. You know, we're gonna see if he can maintain this kind of stretch. He's definitely is not gonna maintain score averaging 1 goal per game in this season. If he can do that, then I would be absolutely shocked by that. But still, you know, he's obviously off to a good start. And if he can continue this kind of stretch, then I will admit that I was wrong to criticize Jersey Zardes and say that he wasn't fit anymore to, you know, to perform like he did a couple of years ago. But yeah, so like I said, Zardes scored a brace, and goals from Montreal in a losing cause: Piatti and Raheem Edwards scoring a goal. And I'm actually very happy that Raheem Edwards scored a goal, because I always rated this kid. He is a very young, talented kid, and when he was with Toronto, he kind of shows that. And now that he is moving to Montreal, and he gets a chance to prove himself that he could potentially be one of the best players in the league, him getting a goal today will definitely prove this case in the near future. And you know, like I always will say this, you know, Montreal picking up Raheem Edwards was a very smart move, and a very great move from them. And in a couple of years, it's definitely going to be proven that this was one of the better moves that they made. And yeah, very happy that he, of course, scored in this game. But overall, the overall story of this game and why this game was just so crazy was the fact that Columbus was up 2-0 in this game. And also, by the way, I got the minute wrong. You see how it says 15 minute on both of them. I think Zardes scored like around the 40th minute and stuff like that. I gotta go check later on. That's actually a typo, but yeah, they were up 2-0 in this game. Montreal tied the game in the second half. They made a furious comeback in the second half. And it looked like this one was going to end in stalemate until one of the Montreal defenders decided to give the game away and decided to trip up one of the Columbus player. And basically, that was probably the reason why Montreal lost this one. I mean, and you know, not only this is a heartbreaking loss for Montreal, the fact that they concede a late goal in this game, but it's also the fact that they had 3 shots in this game that came off the post. 3 shots off the post. I mean, that is some FIFA level kind of stuff right there. The fact that they hit the post so many times, and if one of them would have gone in, they probably would have walked out of Columbus with a point. And if 2 of them went in, they would have got all 3 points in this game. So yeah, that obviously is another one that will just make this loss even more painful to swallow. And as for Columbus, you know, it's a good win, and in some way you kind of got lucky, the fact that you of course was able to get a penalty late in the game and able to convert it and get all 3 points in this game. And you know, the performance for Columbus wasn't really that good. They were nowhere near as good as they were when they were playing against Toronto, and when they beat Toronto 2-0 at BMO Field. But still, at the end of the day, 3 points is 3 points, and yeah. Either way, moving on to the next game, the Revs got a 2-1 win at home against Colorado Rapids. This is another game that I did not watch, but unlike this one where it was very exciting and there was a lot of drama near the end, this one didn't. Well, actually, I will say this, you know, New England did score a very late goal, and I think it was also the last kick of the game, so it kind of delivered some drama, but other than that, it was a very, very boring game. I mean, it was just, there was not a lot of attack in this game, and I kind of expected it because both of these teams are not very good going on the attack. These 2 teams are just 2 of the worst teams in the league going head to head, and you know, when that happens, usually it will be kind of a very boring kind of game. But you know, for the Revs, who of course won this game, goals from Fagundes and Tierney. And just for the record, this is not the same Chris Tierney that is an ice hockey player. There's actually an ice hockey player that is also called Chris Tierney, and he actually plays for the Sharks. So it's kind of quite funny, the fact that we also have a Chris Tierney in MLS, and he scored a last minute goal, and the last minute goal he scored was a free kick. And in many ways, I really think Tim Howard should have done better to save that one. I mean, you know, the free kick that Tierney strike, it was a pretty good free kick, but it looked like it was a savable one by any goalkeeper. And you know, unfortunately, Tim Howard did not stop that, and this is another case and another kind of reason why Tim Howard is really past it. And I really think maybe this is probably his last year, or maybe next year is going to be his last year of actually playing in the MLS before he's gonna have to announce his retirement, because he just does not look like the same Tim Howard that we knew a couple of years ago. And also for Colorado, the only goal from them was Jackson, and Colorado also had a penalty save in this game. So yeah, that just adds to another kind of pain that they have to swallow from this loss. And you know, really for the Rapids, this was a great opportunity for them to get all 3 points against a Revs team that not only was shorthanded in this game, but there was just no confidence at all for the Revs coming into this game. I mean, after suffering that embarrassing 2-0 loss to the Union, there was just no confidence at all that this team was going to get a result. But they, of course, did get a result, although it was a little bit scrappy. They obviously will take the 3 points, and certainly I think they'll probably would not be dead last on my power rankings that I will make tomorrow. But, yep, so either way, moving on to the next game, and wow. This was not what I expected. And this game was on the same level of what happened last week's game between Houston and Atlanta, where Houston completely ripped apart Atlanta at home 4-0. Although I think this one is even more impressive because, one, LAFC is playing on the road, and two, they are playing against an RSL team that has not lost at home in the last 8 games. I mean, it was pretty clear that coming into this game, and I thought, even LAFC got that victory against Seattle. They were playing a pretty weak Seattle team, and they didn't look like that impressive in that game. And I thought for sure that RSL should have clearly enough to get a win against LAFC. And, like I said, after all, they have won 8 in a row dating back to last season at home, and they just didn't do that at all. And there also is some kind of VAR kind of controversy in this game also, which I will get to it in just a bit. But really, for LAFC, goals from Rossi, who scored a brace, Blessing, Fehlhaber, Vela. The only goal for RSL was Plata from the penalty spot. And, for LAFC, this was really the Vela and Rossi show. I mean, Carlos Vela and Diego Rossi basically just completely ripped apart that RSL defense. They made that RSL defense look like the Minnesota defense. Made it look like one of the worst defense in the league. And, with Rossi, his ability to get into the right position and get behind RSL time and time again, and with Carlos Vela with his pinpoint passing throughout the game, I mean, it was just so entertaining to watch. And, and besides Rossi and Vela, other guys in this game also had a pretty good game. Orania actually had a pretty decent game in this match, although I will say that he did miss a couple of big kind of opportunity, which is also one of the reasons why we let him go, because that is exactly what he did. And obviously, Blessing had a pretty good game. He scored a goal in this, and even the defense had a pretty good game too for LAFC. Lauren Simon actually looked like the old Lauren Simon that used to be very good for Montreal back when Montreal made that deep run into the playoffs. And overall, it was just a 5-star performance for LAFC. And, for RSL, this was an absolute embarrassment. And it got so embarrassing that even Mike Pecky openly talked to the media and even apologized to the fans and also the owner of RSL with the performance like that. And I really think that is a very class act by Mike Pecky. I mean, Pecky is one of, if not the most respectable manager in the league, and you just cannot hate him. He's just that respectable. And I think the way that he apologized to him, and in some ways, some of the things that he did in this game wasn't really his fault. I mean, his defense just literally fell asleep in most of this game, and some of the goals that they conceded, it was just some schoolboy defending from RSL and not able to really take care of the obvious dangerous man for LAFC, which was Vela and Rossi. But yeah, I mean, this is an absolute embarrassing loss, and for RSL, they got to put this behind, because I know RSL is better than this, okay? RSL is definitely better than what we just saw in this game, and they probably just have one of those games where things just did not look good for them at all, and they need a big bounce back in the next match. But take nothing away from LAFC. It was a 5-star performance, and now going forward, you wonder, is this team really kind of contenders now for the playoffs? For me, I still am a little bit skeptical if LAFC can really contend and be in the playoff spot, mainly because I'm just worried about the injury crisis that they eventually potentially will hit. I mean, let's say if Diego Rossi or Carlos Vela goes down, or if both of them goes down, then I really think LAFC is doomed, because so far this season, it's been those two guys that has been really generate the attacking force, and is the reason why this LAFC team looked very exciting and looked like the Atlanta United of last season. But if both of those guys goes down, or if one of those guys goes down, then they are in big trouble. There's just no really good other replacement for them, and yeah, we're gonna see how that's gonna go as the season goes on. Meanwhile, next game. Speaking of crazy games, this was another one of those crazy kind of 7-goal thriller kind of game, and I actually watched the first half of this game. I didn't watch the second half because I actually had to go to Napa to watch I had to go there to do a Sports Hop series, and when I left my house, it was 2-0 at the end of the first half, and I thought, well, this is going to be a victory for Sporting KC, and I just don't see how Chicago is going to come back, because in the first half, it was just all Sporting KC. Chicago did not do anything in the first half at all, and, Sporting KC did eventually get the victory, but when I got to Napa and when I checked the score, and when I found out that, it was a 4-3 game, and Chicago was actually up at one point of this game, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked, and the second half of this game was just absolutely mental. In fact, between minute 70 to minute 86, there was 5 goals scored in that game. 5 goals in a span of 16 minutes. That's like 3 minutes per goal in this game. It was just so wild, and Chicago definitely played better in the second half of the game, and then all of a sudden they just complete this really crazy comeback in a span of 12 minutes with Katai and Nikolic scoring the brace. And at that point, I thought for sure that Chicago potentially is going to sneak out here and get a win, and Sporting KC is going to be just kicking themselves that they blew a 2-0 lead, and the defense looked really vulnerable in this game. But to their credit, they did score an equalizer literally about a minute and a half after Nikolic got that go-ahead goal for Chicago, and then Gutierrez, of course, getting the winner for Sporting KC. And, for Sporting KC, this is good news and bad news in terms of this win. The good news for them is that they look like a team that can actually finally score goals. This was one of the biggest problems for Sporting KC last season. And, there was just nobody on their team that can really be kind of a real kind of threat, and a guy that will guarantee you 10 or 20 goals in a season. And I don't think that problem still solved after this game, because when you look at the guys that score in this game, Felipe Gutierrez, the new DP that they brought in, is a midfielder. He's a central attacking midfielder, I think, and he usually is the guy that is supposed to create those goals, not score them. Johnny Russell is also a midfielder. He also brought in from Derby County. And then Madron is a defensive midfielder that scores. So it's like basically their entire midfield basically was their attack in this game, and there wasn't really like a striker or a winger or a central attacking mid that scored the goals for Sporting KC. So maybe even though they score 4 goals and they're happy they finally scored goals, they are still kind of concerned the fact that they don't have that reliable guys that can score 20 or 10 goals in a season. And I'm pretty sure all 3 of these guys are not going to do that. And, the bad news for Sporting KC is that they gave up 3 goals. This is now 5 goals in 2 games that Peter Vermeer's team has gave up. And I'm pretty sure Peter Vermees is not happy about that, because his philosophy is all about defense. He wants to be seeing his team be very compact on the defensive end. And if this continues for Sporting KC, if they continue to leak goals like that, like they did in this game, this is a huge concern, because if their defense started to collapse, then they are doomed, because that is all they have. And they're basically going to be repeating what the Rapids did a couple of years ago, when the Rapids rely on the defense a lot, and when that defense start to collapse, so is the team. So yeah, that's just something that Sporting KC need to keep an eye on. And as for Chicago, I mean, I will say that it was a good try for them to come back from going down 2-0, and the second half performance definitely was so much better. They played with so much more purpose, and just really woke up in the second half. The first half, they just completely sleepwalking. They were probably still in their preseason kind of mode, and in the second half they woke up, they scored those 3 goals, and it's always good to see Nikolic get on the board, and that obviously is good news from Chicago, because there's always a question about how whenever you score so many goals like Nikolic did last season when he won the Golden Boot, there's always a question, is there going to be a sophomore slump? And so far the answer is no, because he's just scored a brace in this game, and he's already got 2 goals on the mark, and he potentially could be one of those guys that will potentially retain his Golden Boot by the end of the year. But for Chicago, unfortunately, they fell short in this game, and it also doesn't help the fact that you concede a goal literally 90 seconds after you completely turn the game on its heads. I mean, but then again, all credit to Sporting KC to show that resilience, and the fact that they don't panic after they gone from 2-0 up to losing 3-2. Meanwhile, next up, this was a bit of an upset, I will say, because Vancouver won 2-1 against Houston, and Houston actually lost for the first time at BBVA Compass Stadium. I don't actually know when was the last time they lost. I think last season they went undefeated at BBVA Compass Stadium, so it's been a while since Houston has actually lost a game. Goals in this game, Albert Elise continue that hype train for Houston with another goal, and for Vancouver, Kamara and Brek Shea with the goal. Kamara, of course, scored on the penalty, and Kai Kamara is another guy that I criticize the fact that he just doesn't have it anymore. It just it feels weird, because the guys that I always criticize that they just don't have it anymore, and that they will never be like the same guy they were a couple of years ago, actually performed very well. I mean, you saw Jarzi Zardes did that, and now it's Kai Kamara's turn to do well for Vancouver. And for Vancouver, this was a vintage Vancouver Whitecaps performance. I mean, Houston had all the possession in this game. Houston were by far the better team in this game. They had a lot of shots in this game, but somehow Vancouver able to get a win, and they kind of got fortunate with the penalty, because that was just completely against the run of plays. Before the lead up of that penalty, Vancouver basically did nothing on the attack, but they won a penalty. Kamara, of course, puts it away to go up 1-0, and then they, of course, was pushed back to a draw after Albert Elise scored a goal. And then in the second half, Brek Shea scored another one, and the Brek Shea goal is just so vintage of Brek Shea, and just pretty much explain what Vancouver was last year. I mean, he basically, well, it wasn't he, but it was another Vancouver player that basically they won it in their own half, and they basically just immediately go on the counter attack, and Brek Shea basically used his pace to get by everybody in that Houston team, and he basically just made himself get through. And yeah, I mean, that is typical Vancouver. That is exactly why last season they were a team that made the playoffs, and while a lot of teams weren't really giving them a lot of credit, because this is a team that last season has got result like this where they weren't dominating the game, but somehow they just did enough, and that they also are a masterful kind of counter-attacking team. And really, Vancouver were by far the better counter-attacking team in this game. I know, like I said in the preview, I said that both of these teams were counter-attacking team. Well, it looks like Vancouver were the better counter-attacking team in this game. And as for Houston, obviously they are now back down to earth after an impressive 4-0 win against Atlanta. And I think really the difference between this game to Atlanta game that they had a week ago is that they did not put away those chances. In that Atlanta United game, they punished every mistake that Atlanta United gave to them, and in this game they didn't do that. They had nobody in that team can finish at all, and it was a great performance by the Vancouver goalkeeper too, but at the same time there was a couple of them that they should have buried it. And you would kind of say that Houston should at least deserve a draw in this game, because they play very well, and they played just as good as they were against Atlanta, but the only reason why they lost is because they did not put those chances away. Anyway, next game, this was another upset. Minnesota beating Orlando 2-1. Goals from Ethan Finley with the brace for Minnesota. Yotun with the only goal for Orlando. It was a penalty also. And how about those Loons? How about those Loons getting a sneaking 2-1 win on the road against Orlando City? And after, last week, how they, for the majority of the game looked completely flat against San Jose, and somehow they, of course, got 2 goals back and decided to wake up at that point, but unfortunately it was too late. And then they fly all the way across the other side of the country to play against an Orlando City team that, are banged up, but still, it was an absolute impressive win by Minnesota. And, certainly they'll be very happy with this victory, and maybe Minnesota might not be the worst team in the league after all. Maybe this is a team that can actually go up to maybe 9th or 8th place, or even if you are a deluded fan, we'll say that maybe they can contend for the playoffs. I mean, yes. And, really, I think for all kind of kidding aside, I really think Minnesota, you got to give a lot of credit to Adrian Heath in this game. I mean, he got his tactics spot on in this game. He completely out-tactics Jason Kreis in this match. And I think because Adrian Heath is playing his former team and he is making his return to Orlando City, where he used to manage a couple of years ago, I think that probably gave him a extra motivation that he wants to win this one. I mean, usually you always see with manager that is playing against their former team, and they always want to win those one because they want to prove their former employees that, this, you shouldn't have let me go in the first place. And, Adrian Heath had a masterful plan, even though not last week, but in the preview, I kind of criticized him with his tactics and some of the things that he did in that San Jose game. Well, in this game, he did the opposite. He looked like he knew exactly what he's doing. And as for Orlando, I get it that you didn't have your strongest squad in this game, and you probably won't have them in the next couple of games. But to lose to one of the worst team in the league at home, that is a really, really concerning side. And right now, this means that because of this loss to Minnesota, and also the fact that they drew against DC United, that's now 2 crucial games that they have dropped points to teams that they clearly should have beat, even with a injury-riddled kind of team. And really, this really kind of sets up for Orlando to really perform once all those guys gets back. Because if all those guys gets back, if guys like Sasha Kleshtin, Who else? Coleman and Russell and all those guys comes back into the lineup, and also Dom Dwyer coming back for Orlando City. If they do not perform and they do not really bring Orlando back from this really kind of poor start that they have, then Jason Kreis, see ya, goodbye. Thanks for managing Orlando City, but it's time for you to pack the bags. And I'm pretty sure that there's also a couple of Orlando City fans that are already outraged with Jason Kreis and the way that this season has started. And like I said, I really think that if he does not perform this year for Orlando City, if he does not get this team anywhere near the playoffs and even in the top four, they are, or not they are, but he is in big trouble and he is going to get the sack. And it might be even sooner than what we expected. But yeah, it's a good win for Minnesota, but it has to be a concerning loss for Orlando City now. That this really puts a lot of pressure on them when they get everybody back and they expect it to get a win. And if they lose a couple of those games, then they are going to be in deep trouble not making the playoffs again in an all-in year. Anyway, meanwhile, moving on to this game, I gotta move around here because I'm gonna block the way. And also, if you guys wonder why I always move my nose, it's because my nose is very itchy. But yeah, this game, the Red Bulls beating 4-0 over Portland Timbers, goes from Mines, Wright Phillips, and also Rivas with a brace. And I'll tell you what, this was a very impressive performance by the Red Bulls. And, you know, the Red Bulls, as I expected, they feel a very kind of B team kind of squad. By the way, Ben Mines actually scored his first ever goal in MLS, and he's actually a 17-year-old kid that is playing in this game. And this just shows you how the Red Bulls probably have one of the best kind of youth academy, and certainly have one of the best youth system in the league. I think maybe besides FC Dallas, the Red Bulls are right up there as one of the best team in terms of fielding the youth squad. And this is always a team that I think always believe in youth. I mean, you know, their manager Jesse Marsh even openly said it in the media that he believed that these guys that just came up the academy, these kind of 17, 18, 19-year-old that came up the academy, they should have a chance to play and need these kind of minutes so that they can improve and certainly get the experience. And, you know, Ben Mines scoring a goal, certainly that is a huge moment for him, and certainly he'll definitely look back at this moment in his career of scoring the first goal. I mean, when you score the first goal in MLS, that is got to be a moment that you always will remember, because it's just, this is the moment where, like, if you're a player that is going to be an amazing player and turns out to be a breakout player in the MLS, scoring your first goal, you will always remember that is where the starting point is. So it's good for this kid, and, you know, Bradley Wright Phillips with another goal, because that's what he does. Rivas with a brace, and certainly now Orlando City fans are probably fuming right now with Carlos Rivas and why can you do this when we had him? And, you know, he's really settling in when he's with the Red Bulls right now. And as for Portland, this is really bad. You go on the road against a Red Bulls team that wasn't even starting their strongest squad. And, you know, Portland didn't look that bad in this game. Even with the scoreline like this, the only reason why it was 4-0 was because the Portland Timber defense decided to give up starting in the 75th minute. They decided to do what my Quakes team did last season, which was just completely fell apart in the latter part of the games. You know, Portland definitely had a couple of chances to potentially get an equalizer and, you know, not really make this really just a really bad loss for them. But yeah, the Timbers, this is a really concerning side, and it's just the defense is the reason why this team is just so bad right now. I mean, the defense in this game was exactly the same way they were in the last game against the Galaxy. And I said it in the preview, if they are going to perform like that against the Galaxy, then they are going to get ripped apart by the Red Bulls, and what do you know? They got ripped apart by the Red Bulls, and if I had to choose the goals, all these 4 goals that they conceded, probably the worst one that they conceded has to be that 4th goal. I mean, that 4th goal when one of the Red Bulls player were in the wide area and he plays a ball into the center of the box for Rivas. There was 4 Timbers player in the box, and not one of them intercepted that ball, and every one of them just let that ball go, thinking that one of those 4 defenders or one of those 3 defenders can potentially score or not score a goal, but potentially clear that ball away, and that wasn't the case at all. I mean, it was just such a schoolboy defending from the Timbers, and you gotta say, the Timbers, they have to do something with the defense. If they don't do something with the defense, it doesn't matter what you did in the offseason trying to improve the attack. And yeah, I mean, this has got to be a really big concerning point for Portland right now. And, they have to sign a defender in the summer transfer window, or maybe now. Just get a defender right now. It's pretty clear that your defense is absolute hot mess right now. So hopefully that, of course, will happen. But, it's a good win for the Red Bulls. This will definitely get them confident in that midweek game against Tijuana. But yeah, either way, we have 2 more games left. I know that we have already been now 40 minutes into this video. I told you guys that this was going to be a long one because there's going to be a lot to talk about. But yeah, well, actually, I'll kind of speed it up a little bit and talk about these final 2 games. And we start with Atlanta winning 3-1 against DC United. Goals from Martinez, Almiron, and Villalba. And the only goal for DC United was Maddox, which was really a consolation goal. And Atlanta basically did what they had to do in this game, which was finally showed up and do what they did last season. And that front 3 of Martinez, Almiron, and Villalba actually showed up in this game, and they were exceptional in this game. They completely ripped apart that weak DC United defense, and yeah, I mean, it's a very good win for Atlanta. It's a much needed win for them after just an absolute embarrassment in the first week of the season against Houston on the road. And as for DC United, I mean, I still don't get how in the world did this team able to beat Atlanta 3 times last season. This DC United team that just lost to Atlanta was so much better than the DC United of last season, and yet they beat them 3 times last season. I still don't understand how that happened. But really, in this game, DC United, they were never in this game. Well, to be fair, they were kind of in this game a little bit in the second half, but, there was just no attacking threat at all. They were pretty much just defending for the whole game and just hopefully don't concede more than a goal so that they can somehow hit Atlanta on the counterattack. And I really think when Miguel Almiron scored that second goal, that really kind of opened the floodgates and really just completely drained DC United. And after that, it was pretty clear that DC was going to lose this game. And, Maddox, of course, made it interesting, but it was always going to be DC, or not DC, but Atlanta game in this one to win. So it's a good win for Atlanta. It's a much needed win for them after that embarrassment from last week. But yeah, moving on to now the final game of this match review, and NYCFC, as I expected, got a 2-1 win over the Galaxy. Tinnerholm with his first goal in the MLS. I think this is also, that was his first goal in the MLS and his first goal in this season. David Villa scored another goal. The one guy that I want to say that wasn't on the score sheet but was the pretty much the difference maker for NYCFC is Jesus Medina. And he has done it again. He done it last week against Sporting KC, where he really gave those Sporting KC defender nightmares in terms of defending him. And in this game, he has done it again. I mean, he was involved with both of these goals, especially this Villa goal where he basically just run down near the left flank, completely ripped apart that Galaxy defense, and he sets up the ball originally to Ben Sweat, but Sweat of course missed he wasn't able to put away that goal, and then Villa was just right there on the rebound and pretty much put that one away. And yeah, NYCFC, this is a job done for them. And for the Galaxy, like I said, I'm not going to really say that the Galaxy are back being the Galaxy of last year. And I really think they kind of had a pretty decent game in this one. Well, they had a decent kind of second half where they really started to get back into this game. The first half, they didn't do much at all. The second half, they really kind of got it going. And when Dos Santos scored that goal in the hour mark, that really looked like a moment where Galaxy potentially can get the equalizer, and they did have a couple of very decent chances to get the equalizer there, but unfortunately that hope of getting a equalizer and getting a point out of Yankee Stadium was all gone after Ashley Cole decided to give the ball away to Villa. And I know some people will kind of say that wasn't really a foul because David Villa kind of went down a little bit too easily and there wasn't a lot of contact. When you give the ball away and you are look like you of course was going to pull someone down, that is a yellow card every time. That is obviously a yellow card, especially when that player is going to go on the attack, and that is exactly what happened. And rightfully so. He got sent off. He got his second yellow card of the game, and that pretty much just drained the hopes of LA Galaxy. So, yeah, that of course is pretty much the end of this match review. We finally get through. Oh wait, actually we haven't. Oh my goodness, I literally forgot about this, and I almost had to say it in the comments below. And it's a good thing that this kind of brings me back to this game where I had to talk about the controversy in this one, and it is a controversy that has to deal with VAR again. And in this game, a lot of people were talking about how there was two moments in this game that really should have gone to VAR, and really one of the incident they kind of did go to VAR, but the ref should have at least looked at the replay for himself. And one of them, they just didn't even go to VAR at all, and they should have definitely done it. And the first incident was this João Plata goal, which, it was a penalty. And when I look on the replay, and although that LAFC defender, I think it was Jokovic, that was trying to make the tackle, and he kind of made a very clumsy tackle on João Plata. João Plata kind of just jumped up and pretty much just falls on the ground very easily, and I really think that's not a penalty. I really think that is a very soft penalty. And I know some people will say that, well, it's a clumsy challenge. What did you expect from João Plata to do? He has to jump over so he doesn't get injured. Yeah, he jumped over, but the thing is, if he stayed on his feet, then I don't think I have any problem with the fact that it is, of course, a penalty. It's just the way that he went down so easily. It kind of makes me think that that's more like a dive and more like simulation than really just a penalty at all. And the referee did kind of talk to the VAR assistant, and the VAR assistant says that's not a penalty. And that's another thing that I will say is that, besides the ref being very naive in this game, not looking the replay himself, but it's also the VAR person and whoever is in charge of the VAR system is doing such a bad job at looking at it. And yeah, that is why this VAR system is just so controversial in the league. And you know, the second incident was the second goal by Latif Blessing. You know, first of all, I think it was Beitashour that trying to place the ball to Blessing. Some people thought that Blessing was clearly offside, and that when the ball left Beitashour's foot, Blessing was in an offside position. And even some people also say that when Beitashour received the ball, and I think it was Rossi that passed it to him, he was also on an offside position. So basically there was two offside in this event that leads up to the second goal for LAFC. And the fact that the referee didn't review it and didn't even talk to the VAR official about it is why a lot of people are just they are not happy with the way that VAR is implemented in the MLS. And I'm gonna always say it, and I'm gonna kind of say it again. I'm not really a person that is pro VAR, but I'm also not a person that is, you know, just against VAR. I'm kind of a neutral in this. I get why we need VAR, because we would need to try to get rid of these kind of human error and these kind of big mistake that we usually always see in games. But at the same time, if we have VAR and if these referees are not doing a good job at it, and if even the official that is in charge of the VAR is not doing a good job at it, then there's just no point of having this system. So yeah, I can see there's good things about this and there's bad things about this, and that's why I'll let you guys decide in the comments. Do you think VAR is a good thing for MLS? And you know, is VAR going to be the ways that can really fix these bad calls in the future, or do you think that VAR has just even made this game even worse, and the fact that they continue to miss these kind of calls in VAR, and we should just completely against it? But yeah, let me know in the comments below. And yes, finally, this is the end of the video. I know this has been a really long video. I'm sorry about that, but there's just been so many talk in this week that I really need to just try to get it all together. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys tomorrow for the power ranking, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.